So you're going to do the mud run. Fantastic. I'm glad to see that we've had so much interest in the mud run. The first time I saw the video on it, I'm like, I'm doing it. In fact, all the trainers have been on board, so I'm glad to see you are also on board for it. This video is basically to help everybody who is participating in it to prepare for it and to understand what they're getting themselves into. It is a 10K, which is a 6-mile run. It's not that bad in the running respect because it is intermittent. You will have the obstacles that will come in there. But the first question is, can you run 6 miles? If you can run 6 miles, great. But I want to make this abundantly clear. I think some of the people that have been, we've been talking to about this, they underestimate the difficulty of what lies ahead. You are talking about running 6 miles in hikers or boots while you're wet and the boots are wet and you are dirty, and it's in the end of June, so it could be typically hot at that time. Depending on what time our heat leaves, you could be running at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you got to take all of these things into account when you're talking about doing this. Now, this is not to say that I'm trying to dissuade anybody from doing it. I think it's going to be a fantastic event, but don't walk into it thinking this is going to be an easy thing. Training for it is actually kind of difficult. You can be a fantastic runner, but that will just make you a little bit easier to prepare for this type of an event. There's reasons why events like this are to prepare the military for battle, and part of it is because this is some stuff that they could go through. But the other part of it is the mental toughness training and the teamwork and camaraderie that it builds. And that's what, I think is so important with this type of an event. But I also want to make sure that people understand that this is not going to be something that's just going to be a walk in the park because, it's a 6-mile run, but I get to take a break in between because I got to do these things. It may be a break if you're doing it slowly, but remember, in a team, you're only as strong as your weakest link. However, nobody wants to be the ball at the end of that chain. Nobody wants to be holding everybody else back. So everybody wants to be giving it their all, and I just want to make sure that you're prepared for it. Understanding a lot of the things that will come into play during an event like this, as opposed to a traditional race, is important. So this is why I'm covering on this video. The number one thing I want everybody to address is blisters. You have to make sure you are doing everything you can to prevent blisters. If you run 6 miles, not a big deal. You're running it in running shoes. Your feet are generally dry, unless it's raining outside, which everybody's had to run in the rain. But you're not running in boots, which you normally would not be running in. Combat boots or hikers are a lot heavier than running shoes, and therefore have a lot greater chance, especially when wet, to slip around. You don't fit as tight. So we're going to have to address preventing blisters. Some easy ways to do that is to ensure that you break in whatever shoes you're going to be running in. If you had to get new shoes for this, or if you went out to Walmart to buy some cheap shoes, make sure that you put new insoles in them. Spend extra $10 or so and get some decent insoles to provide some arch support. So those are one thing. Make sure that your boots are broken in. One way Navy SEAL Stu Smith says to do that is to take a shower in. Let them get wet. Let you wear them while they're wet, and kind of break them in that way. You want to have good socks. Now, there are a few different types of ways we can deal with the sock situation. First of all, your cotton socks out. Do not wear cotton socks. Cotton socks will swell when they get wet. They cause a lot of friction when they do that, and the fibers themselves are pretty rough. So you don't want cotton socks. You want polyester socks, hopefully something like a polypropylene or a Coolmax. But socks, one pair of socks in and of itself will probably not do the job. It's most likely you're going to need something, a double layered sock, which helps prevent blisters, or two pairs of socks, maybe a polypropylene sweat wicking type sock on the bottom, and then you could possibly wear a cotton sock on top of that because it won't actually be contacting the skin. Another option, and this is going to sound funny, this is something the military does. Instead of wearing 2 pairs of actual socks, the key is having something that's close to your skin that actually stays there and won't move around a whole lot. one way to ensure that there's less friction on the skin is to lube your feet up with either product called what is it called, Body Glide, or petroleum jelly. You lube your feet up with that. Then, this sounds funny, you put pantyhose or ankle pantyhose on your feet underneath your socks. That will help decrease the friction in there with the socks, because the pantyhose will stay tight to your foot. There won't be as much friction in there because you get your feet lubed up. And then you put your regular sock, hopefully some type of polyester so it doesn't absorb the water as much, on top of that, and that'll help keep the boot in place. So there won't be, if there is friction and if there is movement with that sock, because it's not actually touching the skin, there's less friction there. In addition, I know I'll be doing this, you can add blister block. It's a special type of Band-Aid that it can go on the heel or underneath of the foot to help decrease friction even more. Like I said, when you're talking about over 6 miles time period with your feet constantly wet, and not only getting wet but getting wetter as you go, because you're going to constantly be dunking your feet, wearing shoes that aren't made to really run in or you aren't used to running in, and all those type of things, blisters can be a real problem. And even if they're not a problem during the race, it can become a real problem after the race, and nobody wants to have to deal with that. So those are some ways to help deal with that. You know, keeping your feet lubed up with petroleum jelly, having a blister block type thing or a Band-Aid on there, wearing dual layer socks or something in that regard to help decrease the friction will all help in those regards. The other things, preparing for the race, the actual training part, like I said, it's going to be difficult because the race itself is mentally tough. You got to be mentally tough to prepare for a race such as this, where you're tired, you're wet, and you're dirty. Those three things, added to the fact that you are completing the 10-mile or the 10K, makes it quite difficult. This could be the greatest overall physical test that you'll have because of those factors, the mental factor. But you're not going to be doing it alone. You'll be doing it on a team, and a team makes everything a little bit easier because you're out there pulling for each other. You're helping each other. If somebody's falling a little bit behind, they can help pull you along.